This is your host, Milos speaking. Welcome to this. It's not our Christmas edition of the Serbian Football Show. All joking aside, I know many of our listeners and followers are celebrating today, so we wish the best to you and your families, and hopefully the next year is a great one for everyone. Today on the show, we'll be doing a bit of a Q&A show. We had a lot of questions sent in from our listeners about things they'd like to talk to us about, and they would like to hear us discuss, so we'll be making sure to do that. And of course, this week, have a couple of my buddies and my cohorts here joining me. First, we have Luca. Luca, has that Mexico glow faded away yet, or what?
Not yet. It's hanging strong, man. But give it a couple more days in this cloudy conditions, and it'll go away for sure.
Yeah, I heard he's glowing in the dark. He's glowing.
Well, the Mexico glow might fade away, but the Bitcoin glow,
that's right, dude. That's forever.
And Valley, how's things going in Adelaide?
Brother, you said it's going to be a Q&A session today, question and answer session. So I'm going to put this question to you three. Would you guys be happy in joining me to doing a Making Rakia podcast? We're in the middle of it at the moment.
Now we're in my territory. Now we're getting
now we're in the festive season, in the festive spirit, and I'm wondering, would anyone be interested? And please like Milos's Twitter account. If everyone wants to do a Pečenje Rakije podcast, I'd be in.
Trending tab, look out.
And Alex,
I'm never gonna go to work. Jesus Christ! By the time I do all these podcasts, I'll never be able to be employed again.
That's the point. Alex, how's things for you, man? How's the nation's capital?
Nation's capital doing very well for multiple reasons. I've shown up on time. That's number one. Veli's come sober. That's number two. And number three, Luca's got a new podcast, which I'd like to plug. So.
Appreciate you.
Give it a listen, and it was pretty good.
Very professional. Yeah. Far out.
Only way to do it, Veli.
Mess around, brother.
His
equipment costs more than my house, so that's a good sign. And it's all good.
That's right, man. Great that you brought that up, and look, plug your alternative pod.
Sure, man. I appreciate the opportunity, guys. Definitely appreciate it, man. Yeah, the podcast is called At This Moment. It's me and my buddy from DC. We just do it for fun, and we just put it up on YouTube. If you just go on YouTube and search At This Moment, you should be able to find it. But we talk about anything from, social issues to entertainment to Serbian soccer. So it's a lot of fun, man.
Hell yeah. All right, boys, let's get into the show. We had a lot of questions come in. And a lot of people have been asking us about coefficients, how that works, and what it's looking like for our clubs going forward into the next European seasons. I know if you're on Twitter, you probably follow a couple legends, We Global Football and Play Tony, who are always updating coefficient and coefficient news. Alex, I know you've been wanting to talk about this for a couple of weeks, so take it away, my man.
Yeah, it's situation's very interesting for us, I would say. Primarily, I would hope that the fine editing team that we have will have some of the pictures that we have that would showcase the statistics that are going to back up my dribble here. Also follow UEFA Calculator. He does a pretty good job of it. So the way things stand as of right now is that next year we will certainly have only the champion playing in the Champions League qualifiers, and the second, third, and fourth team go to the Conference League qualifiers. And the points that we're trying to get for this season is actually for the points that Zvezda or other teams are trying to get for this year was for the 22-23 season, so the one after the next one. In order for us to have two teams in the Champions League qualifiers, we need to be in the top 15 leagues. We are currently 16th. I'm not going to get too detailed into the points. I do know that we are comfortably 16th. We are behind Denmark and Cyprus, who are around 28 points, or somewhere around just below that. We have 26.25. Other countries that are below us have teams remaining in Europe, Switzerland, Greece, Czech Republic, Croatia, all on 25 points. So we're pretty much nailed on in that 16th position. And the way that the points are tallied, at least for the national coefficient, is determined, in general, the way that it works is that games are such that for a win, you get 2 points, for a draw, you get 1, and for a loss, you get 0. That's the way that I think the club coefficient works. And the way that the national coefficient is determined for each team is that that amount of points is divided by the number of teams that we have eligible for Europe. So, for example, in England, they have, I think, 6 teams eligible for Europe. So 2 points, for example, let's say if Liverpool wins a game, 2 points is divided by 6 because they're one of the 6 teams that's there, so they would get 0.0 something. We are in a situation where if we get a win, it's 0.5. So Zvezda's actually picked up quite a few points because we only had 4 teams eligible. We had Partizan, TSC, Vojvodina, and also Zvezda. And we picked up a lot of points. In order for us to have 2 teams in Champions League qualifiers in the season after that, we have to catch Cyprus, and that is going to be a very difficult task considering that Zvezda has Milan. They would need to win. They would need to get a point and a half, which means they'd have to win at least 3 games to get there, 2 wins and 2 draws. And we really got screwed with Omani and Midtjylland. I think Midtjylland, especially in that last game, picked up a draw against Liverpool, who put out their B side. Omani beat PAOK. So we really got very unlucky when it comes to that. As far as other countries trying to catch us, Switzerland has young boys remaining. All the countries I'm about to list rather have only 1 team left. Switzerland has young boys. Greece has Olympiacos. Czech Republic has Slavia Praha, and Croatia has Dinamo Zagreb. So those are all the teams. And all the teams, however, apart from Dinamo Zagreb, are unseeded in a draw, so they should be going out pretty quickly. And Dinamo is the only seeded one, is actually the lowest on that list. Croatia is only the 20th country. So that's basically the pure statistical side of it. As far as would it be good for us to get 2 Champions League teams? Yeah, in one way. But I think in order for that, you need to have at least a 3rd team that's capable of getting into Europe or getting some results. Now, the Conference League should allow those teams, like Vojvodina, TSC, or others, to get there. But Croatia had 2 teams in Champions League qualifiers when they were, I think, 15th or 14th, and they've plummeted in the ranking since. So until we fix our league, I wouldn't get our hopes up too high. It's obviously better to have 2 teams there, so you can have an easier path for the Europa League. But, yeah, we're pretty much nailed on in 16th, and that's basically it. It's just pure statistics, and there's really nothing more to add.
That's right.
Can we get Alexa to repeat that, but really quickly?
Yeah, we're 16th, and we're pretty much stuck there, and we need Zvezda to go to the quarterfinals if we want to have 2 teams in the Champions League in 2 years.
Hell yeah.
Fantastic. I just written all that down. Brother, your knowledge is insane. I love it.
For real.
I mean, like, yeah, never skin him couple.
Great job, Alexa. Moving on to the next question here. Our man Ben, he wants to know our thoughts on a XU league, like we have the ABA league, the Adriatic Basketball League for a basketball team. So a joint XU league, and if we think that will improve or help the football. Just my thoughts first. Personally, when it comes to everything, I'm all about decentralizing things because I think as everything is, Serbia cannot be all about Belgrade. If Belgrade is the only place being built up, where does that leave the rest of the country? And I think it's been a big problem for a long time, the centralization of Serbia. And I think the same thing applies to sports. We can't just build up the 2 Belgrade clubs because our football is not going to progress as a whole if we do that. I know I've seen people write about this, the lack of players in our youth system and our youth national teams from Eastern Serbia, from Western Serbia. It's mostly players from the Belgrade area and Vojvodina currently. And for those areas used to be the places where most of our talents came from. So it is a big problem right now. And I think if we had an XU league, it would only centralize the football even more because all the focus would be on that league. It would all be on the big derbies, Zvezda against Dinamo, Partizan against Hajduk, things like that. So just philosophically and in principle, I am against centralization of everything and include football in that. And I think it would be interesting. I think obviously the quality of the league would be better, but I don't think our country's football and our production of talent or anything like that would improve because of the league. Luka, what about you?
I'll have to disagree with you a little bit there, Milos. I think the quality would definitely improve because, like, if you're playing, top level sides week in and week out, if you're like a Zvezda or Partizan, no doubt that I think the quality of the play would improve and the players themselves would be a lot better when they're facing that kind of competition on a regular basis. I am with you about the decentralization aspect. However, I don't think it'll ever get done anyway. I do think the quality will improve, but to get that done, I think there's just too many moving parts. I think even UEFA would be a problem for something like that to be done, not to mention all of our federations. So I don't think it's going to happen. I wouldn't mind seeing it happen. Besides your points, though, Milos, the decentralization ones, you're right. Belgrade would get the brunt of it, and obviously Vojvodina. But yeah, man, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, and Veli, what are your thoughts, my man?
Listen, this is a question that's been in my head for 20 years, right? We've seen the success of the ABA Liga in basketball. Some of the great memories are now, like even, okay, you talk about the centralization in basketball, have been of Crvena Zvezda and Partizan in basketball, you know, the famous game Partizan plays against Cibona Zagreb, you know, that now that's long in the history and it will stay there. One thing, I'll just backtrack for 2 seconds because I agree with both of you about the decentralization. One of the things that really pains me, it really kills me. So, yes, I'm a Zvezda, I love Zvezda, and, you know, that's, you know, like it's the way it is. I don't hate Partizan, but I feel like I would love to see any Serbian team do well. But in the Prva Liga, so the second division, second tier, second rank, whatever you want to call it, I have a team that I follow. It's Budućnosti Dobanovci. My cum lives in Dobanovci and all that type of stuff. So I've seen in 3 or 4 games live on a Sunday afternoon. What I'm amazed about is that there are bigger cities for the scale that we're used to, bigger in Serbia, bigger cities that have teams in the second tier. So, you know, Sloboda from Užice, Dinamo Vranje, they're bigger cities within Serbia. You know, in top 10 cities. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
exactly,
like that.
Exactly right. And for that, and I used to scratch my head and say to myself, how doesn't that town, city, you know, province, whatever you want to call it, how doesn't it have enough money to make sure that they have a competitive football team? Because at the end of the day, it lifts the spirits of the local place, so on and so forth. There was a famous documentary on ex-Yugoslavian football called Futbal Nogomet i Još ponešto, and you know it was a real beautiful break in that series when they talked about Radnički Niš. I think getting to the semi-finals of the UEFA Cup, and they played Hamburg, you know, I think in the mid-'80s or early '80s or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. So, I would love to see the decentralization and, you know, more clubs spread across the you know, country. As they say, upoznati zemlju da ga više voliš. So, I would love to see that. The regional league, I would love to see that even more. Now, I've got a caveat with it. We all know what the problem would be, is that everything that goes into politics and ethnic conflict is more expanded, it's more expressed, it's more exaggerated when it comes to football. So I would love to see us take the initiative. So if I gave you an example, if one of the ex-republics doesn't want to play, let's just play without them. Do you know what I mean? So you know, if Slovenia doesn't want to play, you know, I'm not picking on Slovenia. If they don't want to play, then we'll just play. You know, let's see if we can garner support and you know from the rest of them. Or if Croatia doesn't want to play, let's see if we can get support from the rest of them. Play a regional league there because I still think that would increase the level of football within the whole region. That's the buzzword now, isn't it? The whole region. Let alone in our independent leagues, because there's a few really horrible games. I get the satellite TV here, and sometimes I watch it, and it's pistol in your mouth stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm talking water pistol here. It is really, really bad, and I think that would improve the standard. And again, you know, this is another topic for another day. I think as time goes on, you know, the big 10 clubs in Europe are taking every single dollar, dime, whatever you want to call it, dinar, and, you know, a second-tier rank European competition, possibly for Eastern Europe. I know that's not in the European ideals, because the days of Steaua Bucharest or Crvena Zvezda being European champions will never happen again. And so I think there's that like bigger picture. But to go back to Ben's question, yeah, I would love to see it. but I think we need to take the initiative and say, okay, if one of the republics don't want to, well, let's see if we can get support of the rest. And I agree with you two boys about the decentralization.
But Veli, do you think that UEFA would allow such a regional league to exist?
So, yeah, guess what? There's been precedents. So there's been precedents before where they allowed the Scandinavian countries to play in what was called the Kings League. Now, it only lasted 2 or 3 seasons due to lack of support for them domestically. So there has been precedents. So that's where I think our diplomatic type skills need to come to the fore and say that, could this happen? Or to play, a Balkan League or and why couldn't we, people say why. I'm a person that says why not? Why couldn't we engage clubs from Romania, Bulgaria, even Greece for that matter, to play in some type of competition if it improves us all? Because the problems that we have is the same problems that Croatia have, the same problems that Bosnia have,
True.
Same problems, Romania, as Bulgaria, and even Hungary have. So why? We've got to show a bit of initiative. We've got to show a little bit of, being on the front foot and having some positive steps, because we're the only people that will gain out of it. They will too, but, only football will gain out of it, I should say.
Right.
Right. Alex, any thoughts on the regional league?
Well, a couple of things. I'm going to probably I don't mean to steal from some of the more esteemed, legitimate journalists that have talked about this topic before, but I'm going to paraphrase what they said because they're more knowledgeable than I am. Definitely, first of all, agree on the decentralization point. There was one of the rare great things that Milinkovic-Savic said one day was that you don't find the great players in Belgrade, you find them in Kruševac and Smederevo and Kragujevac, and you find them in the smaller cities because they're working-class kids. There was a tweet you posted, Milos, not too far ago that asked, what is the best player to come out of your city? And since I live in Belgrade and I was born in Belgrade, I had to think and have to go all the way back to Moshe Miljanovic, because all the other players born in Niš or born in Kragujevac, so they were born in
Ulb, Dragan from Ulb, that's not Belgrade,
Yeah, so it's
Branislav Ivanović from Sremska Mitrovica.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Milos Miljanovic was born in Bajina Bašta, so that goes to show you. So I agree with that. I think, listen, from UEFA side, they would allow it. I don't know much about that, but I've talked with people, or I've heard people say that they would allow it because they want a strong league. I mean, you think about it, Swansea and Cardiff play in the English Championship, and they're from Wales. So, there are countries that are not, even in UEFA, you have certain countries that are not, independent in that sense, but they're allowed, protectorates, to participate. The problem with it is whether it would actually benefit us, because I really think if you look at the results, apart from Dinamo, and, Rijeka has obviously done okay, and, Zvezda and Partizan from time to time, teams aren't really achieving much. Olimpia and Maribor are getting occasionally to the Champions League, but they're getting stuck there. Sotiska has done well in qualifying in Budućnost occasionally, but they've never gotten there. Željeznica, no Bosnian team has ever made, I think, even the Europa stage. Varda did very well a couple years ago getting to the Europa League, but that was because of a tremendous amount of investment into the handball club. They were handball champions twice in Europe. So even then, it's kind of, stretched out. I think the costs of travel and things like that would be problematic. I think the political problems are obvious, and I'm kind of excluding those because for that reason, I don't think it's ever going to happen until things normalize here. It's going to be very difficult to expect that to come through. I think that even the competitive sense, it's going to be almost like too much of a dispersion. Sure, Dinamo, Zvezda, and Partizan and others would take advantage of it, but I think that we're kind of overrating some of the other top clubs from some of the smaller countries, and I think that
you can't tell me that Željo and FK Sarajevo are better than Vojvodina. It's probably similar level.
Yeah, similar levels. So I think that and UEFA would probably, considering the way that double standards work, would say it's either all or nothing. Either you include all the countries, or you don't include any of them. ABA League is a different thing. I'm actually looking at the ABA League as someone who knows basketball even more. The Serbian League has suffered tremendously because of it. A lot of clubs have gone down. A lot of other big, like you said, cities in Serbia have gone down and lost their teams. Bonac Čačak and Sloboda and Jagodina and many other teams, Santic Smederevo. A lot of teams that have great history. OFK Belgrade is now, basically on the verge of existing.
And I can't believe a couple of those things. OFK Belgrade in the 3rd or 4th tier, Santic Smederevo. I've actually been to their ground. It's fantastic. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
They're nowhere to be seen. It actually, these things kill me.
It's sad, man.
Boris played Ajax in the UEFA Cup game, and now they're
I was there. It was one of the great nights of my life.
And now they're striking because they're not getting paid. So it's until we fix the smaller league, our league. I really think our league alone is good enough. I think that there are more than enough capable players and more than enough capable people. I understand the willingness for it, but comparing it to ABA League, comparing basketball to football is different, because in basketball, these parts of the world are the best in the world, apart from maybe the United States. Apart from the United States only, we're the best in Europe. I maintain that we're the biggest basketball nation in Europe in terms of our history, in terms of our talent, even bigger than Spain, France, and other countries. Croatia, Slovenia have produced so many players. The 3 of the 5 best players in the league, for crying out loud, in the NBA are European. So, we're powerhouses. We have that kind of cachet, and when you have that kind of the size of your clubs, whether it would be Split or Cibona or Partizan or even Zvezda, it allows you to do the ABA League much better. The infrastructure is better. It's not as demanding as a footballing situation would be. But it also, in turn, has led to the Croatian League and the domestic leagues really falling apart. The Serbian League has had a lot of issues. Radnički and other teams have gone down. Cibona has been in a complete mess for a while. Olympia had to go with Cedevita from Croatia to save themselves. They had to, have a merger, basically. So I think it's detrimental, and I think that it would benefit some. I think that there is a way to do it, but I think it's going to take a long time, above all from a political sense and then from an economic sense.
Alex, what is the hunger for it, though? Okay, we're us 3 on the other side of the world, and I'm the worst. But what is the hunger for it, though? Because, I would love to see, okay, Zvezda, Partizan will always stay. Dinamo will always stay. Želja will always stay. But there's so many basket cases there. Like Hajduk, that's a basket case.
And I'm not trying to downgrade any of the other clubs that I mentioned. I have great respect for Želja and Sarajevo and for Sučeska as well. They did very well in Budućnost. I'm not trying to downgrade and say they wouldn't compete. I'm saying that the current situation is very difficult. We have to wait and see where football's going to be, considering that COVID, half the teams are going bankrupt. I mean, France is not being able to pay. They said they were going to pay $900 million to the clubs. They're paying $200 million. There's a $700 million loss for a country like France. If they're struggling with it, God knows where we're going to be. So it's even a question of whether we're going to be in that sense. So there's hunger for it. I think that there are significant benefits for it. I think that there is legitimately a way to do it where you could actually benefit the smaller teams, but I think it would lead to a problem that would demand a clean house, in the sense that a lot of the clubs in all those countries, there's just too many clubs. If they were Sunday league clubs, and if they actually treated themselves as amateur football, and if there were much fewer clubs in that sense, the clubs would actually survive in their domestic leagues. You wouldn't have the 5 examples I listed you, whether it's Boris or Shatid or whoever. But because there's so many clubs, they're trying to list themselves as professional because they're going to get subsidized by the country. They don't have the funds to make it work. If you actually just kind of didn't allow them to go through so many different ways, it would actually be beneficial for both the big clubs and the smaller clubs. But that's never going to happen because they want to take the money and they want to get subsidized. And even if, and this is not even talking the political climate, which we know is very much tense. I don't think it would exist.
Yeah, even in the ABA League, we've seen. Even the ABA League, we've seen clubs used for political purposes, right?
Yeah,
right. So it's not.
And we had Partizan.
Right. It's not like it's been politics free or controversy free. People like.
I mean, we had last year the way that COVID voting was done, and the whole chaos, and I mean, it's always going to exist. It's always going to be there. I think that
there's so much more money.
Yeah, there's so much
football
more money
compared to basketball. So
exactly.
The political jockeying, who gets in the league and all that is going to be way more intense in the ABA League. And in that sense, also corruption is going to be way more intense.
Clubs can survive in that. I mean, first of all, basketball I would consider to be a more normal, I don't want to say intellectual, but there's less basket cases in basketball, funnily enough. Than
there's less money.
I think we can agree.
Absolutely.
And
sorry, Alex, because I'll never forget. As I told you before, I'm born here in Australia, right? So when I went first back, time back in just after 2000, and then from 2005 until this year is the first year I've ever missed, I made those comparisons in my head. There was one year when I went and I watched Serbia play football, Zvezda play against Sporting Braga, but in the meantime, time, Serbia hosted the European Basketball Championships.
the Basketball Championships.
And 10 days before, they hosted the European. They were co-hosted the European Volleyball Championships. So
the water polo. Also, you're forgetting the water polo. That was like.
I wasn't there. Just I just wasn't there, unfortunately. So what I noticed was the audience, the crowd, the market, whatever you want to call it, was never iz zemlja razlika. Do you know what I mean? Like volleyball, basketball was more intellectual, while football, the rich, the poor, the smart, the stupid, everybody went there. So,
which is a good thing with football, because football does attract everybody, but there are certain moments, especially in the place that we live, because of the tensions that exist from religious and other sense, where it's a problem.
Without a doubt.
Everyone comes together. It's a common denominator. You can understand football much more easier than you can basketball or other sports.
Yeah,
no
matter. Milos, can I just ask Alex this one question, because it relates back to what Ben put towards us. So, because I love the basketball too. Now, I remember not too long ago, Vršac were doing really well in that second-tier European competition. Železnik were doing really well in that other European competition, not the Champions League, but the one underneath in basketball. Did they go bust due to the ABA Liga? Because I wouldn't want to see that happening to any of the football clubs.
Well, I think that, Vršac had issues because Hemafon, the company that was, financing them, went down. It was a similar situation many, many years ago with Belbanka that had a really good team, and, that was a bank that went down for no reason. The fortunate thing about basketball is nobody's really going to go down and fall apart, because we have so much talent in that sport, and we have so much capacity and potential, and we have such a history of it, and such much better school in terms of how we teach those kids, that you're always going to find somebody. In football, we're not even close. Like in basketball, we're like upper echelon. We're Germany, we're Brazil, we're the big boys. And in football, I don't want to say we're small, but it's a different thing. And to close this topic off, UEFA would allow it. UEFA would not only allow it, they would give a direct spot in the group stages for the winner of that league. They've said that they want to see it happen, but they know that the circumstances of it happening are almost impossible, and that is taking away the political and ethnic tensions, which I think are unfortunately going to stay in these parts of the world for a very, very long time. And then even if you took those away, until you fix your domestic leagues so that they don't look like a paper plate being held by duct tape, there's really no way that it's going to happen. I'm not against it, because I have gone to the other ex-republics, and I actually think that the national tension is much, much smaller than people even think it is today. I have a lot of friends from a lot of those different countries, as I'm sure you guys do. But I think that Nebojša said best, in this region of the world, there's just too many, pardon my French, there's too many assholes. So that's why it's never happened.
National tension might be less with like regular people, but like football fans, ultras, right? It's not any less. That's the people who are going to go to those games, especially in our league. And I think it's very hard to compare basketball with football in Serbia, because when one of our young players gets drafted to the NBA, his team gets $1 million, maybe $2 million max. When one of our talented young players goes to the top European club, they're making 5 times that, 10 times that, 15 times that. There's way more money in football, so it's way easier for people to get corrupted, because it's so much more out there to be made. Basketball is popular in Europe, popular in the world, obviously, but the money is not even. It's literally apples and oranges when you compare it.
It's also a different mechanism as to how the money is given and in terms of how the teams are financed. Like you said, apples and oranges. You can't compare the two in terms of their status, in terms of finances. So I understand the question, and I appreciate it, and I'm not even against it, but I think it's almost impossible.
Yeah,
if not
and in Serbia, a lot of times these smaller clubs always go out of business because they lose the funding. Celtic had the steel mill. They were pumping money into that in the early 2000s, and then it's as soon as that stopped, we saw Jagodina as well. Jagodina won the cup. They had a new stadium, all this and all that, and then the funding stopped and they're gone. Same thing with Kragujevac, Užice, all those places. Once the funding stopped from the political level, from local companies or the government, the clubs basically died and went to the third division. So a lot of that is on that.
So just one more quick thing, boys. I know this is not a basketball pod, but this is really important to say. I have a picture with Luka Doncic's mum, and she's hot.
Oh, man.
Right?
That she is, really.
I actually got to see the man in person, and I'm very unfortunate that I didn't get to shake his hand.
No. I'm talking about his mother. She is hot.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. All right, guys, I think we spent enough time on that topic. Let's move on to the next question we have. This one is from one of our loyal listeners, Bato. And
No,
he asked,
wait a second. It's Trickabato to you.
So he asked, why does Veli have to drink so much in order to have a good time?
Far out. You guys got no idea what I've been through this year. You do, all three of you do, but I'm not going to bore the listening world. It's, let's just say, I started really late as an adult, and I'm making up for lost time. I'm making up for lost time.
All right, thanks for the question about that. And then also I had some questions from one of our other really loyal listeners, Letep. He was wondering, we should talk about a new Diaspora talent or a new talent to look forward to, or talent of the week every week on the pod, and we'll definitely do that for you, my man. There's plenty of young players abroad that are coming up, and we'll be sure to discuss them on the future shows as we go on. Thanks for the question. And then our next question here is from the disciple of Ole. He wants us to discuss the rumors of Nikola Milinkovic going to Spurs and Jose Mourinho being interested in his services. Personally, I think that would be a great move. He's been in Italy for a while now, so it's not like he's not ready to play, against big clubs in a bigger league. If you saw the game against Juventus 2 days ago, he's definitely ready to play against big clubs. He had a great game. So I would love it. I would love if one of our players would play at a big club like Spurs and in the Premier League. And I think he has all the potential to be a world-class player and make it there. And personally, it would be amazing if he went to Spurs. Luca, what about you?
I couldn't agree more, man. And the fact that he's playing for Mourinho, it would be a big plus as well. I think he's definitely a Mourinho-type defender, and Mourinho would know how to ease him into the more physical, Premier League. I think he would do well. Look, guys, we've been watching the national team for a while now. We've seen Milinkovic in that team, and he is one of the first names on that team sheet every time, and he's been consistent, and nothing but praise for him. And I think that would be an awesome move for him, and I really hope it happens.
Yeah, actually, I don't think he's missed a minute all season. I think he's missed a minute in the last 2 seasons, actually, in the Serie A, which is very impressive.
Knock on wood.
Your thoughts?
Knock on wood.
I think, listen, absolutely, it would be a great move for him. I think one of the things with Nikola Milinkovic is the fact is that he reads the game really well. He can play both at centre half and at right back or at left back. I've seen him in all three positions. So I think the versatility will be there. I'm not sure how many shirts he's going to sell, because each letter on the back of the strip, it costs probably more than the shirt itself. But Goran Bunjetric had that problem. Luka Milivojevic had that problem. So I don't know how many shirts he will sell. But listen, it's a no-brainer. 5-6 years now in Serie A. You guys read with a lot. It doesn't have to be just Serbian talent. It could be other players that they look for a change. Obviously, it's going to be a lot more faster pace, I beg your pardon, than in Italy. And so, if he can, and guess what? The money helps too. So, all power to him.
Well, I haven't watched a lot of Fiorentina, I have to admit. They've really been struggling. As much as I love the guys there, I love Dusan Vlahovic, I love Ribery and those guys. They just beat Juventus the other day.
Right.
But they have been struggling. Serie A, in a weird way, is actually more open than it's been before, which is crazy for Italian football, which we know is defensive and sturdy and stuff like that.
Man, I love watching this season. Serie A has been amazing, honestly.
Fantastic.
All the games this week, AC Milan, Lazio, so many fun teams to watch. I think Serie A is really back, is back to one of the most interesting leagues.
Yep. Spurs are probably losing out on Alderweireld because he's leaving on a contract. I don't trust Sanchez whatsoever. Dyer's the only one they have. They don't really have any other options. If there's anyone who can teach a defensive tactic, it's Jose. So I think that he would be ready for it. I think that the openness of the Premier League, his pace and his physical attributes could help him out in that. And I think I'd of course love to see it. I'm not, I would say, knowledgeable enough to say whether it would work or wouldn't work, because there have been center backs as well that had a lot of talent in terms of physical ability, in terms of their reading of the game, that didn't work. But then they went to other teams and did well. It would be a big burden on him, but I think that his psychological approach has been very mature from the first moment he broke in the Partizan team, let alone the Fiorentina team. He's had 100 caps there. He's one of the first names in our team sheet, in the Serbian team sheet, and I would love to see it. I wish him all the best of luck in the world, and I think that if he finds the right club for him, he can turn up into a mega star, like one of the best defenders in the league. I think he has that kind of potential on his feet. And I like Spurs, and I love Mourinho, so why not?
Agreed.
I think he's ready. I think he's ready, and I think Mourinho, great history for our players, always takes care of them, always trusts them. And also, we don't know when he's going to leave Spurs, so that's another thing. He might come and then he might be gone, right? So always up in the air, but I think he's ready, and I would love to see him at a big club. Next question we have is from another one of our loyal listeners, Sasha, who is also a stock market wizard. I see all his tweets about the moves he's making, so keep it up, man. But he wants to know about the news, or all this news about OFK Belgrade, and now they're in the third division. Talk about them becoming a farm team, a feeder club for Crvena Zvezda. Personally, I think that would be awful. A club with that history, a club that has produced so many amazing players throughout the last 60, 70 years in Yugoslav and Serbian football, for them to be a feeder club for anybody would be a terrible thing for our football, and just a terrible testament on how bad things have gotten in our country if we were allowed that to happen. Hopefully somebody steps in and helps them financially, because they are one of the most historic clubs in the ex-Yugoslavia and Serbia for sure, and they shouldn't be allowed to go out of business or to fade away, because to me, they are a symbol of our football. Everybody knows their kid, everybody knows their history, the players they've made, and something like that should be nurtured, should be kept, and other future generations should also know about it and see that club play. Shouldn't be something that's allowed to basically go away.
And also, if I may add, it's a club without ideology in that sense. We know that Partizan and Zvezda came out in the ashes of World War II and very heavily politically influenced. I mean, for God's sakes, there's a Red Star in a communistic period, and then Partizan as well. I mean, you can't get more political than that. Vojvodina is always going to have their issues in terms of the independence movement and things like that. OFK Belgrade is just sports football and the closest thing to it. I think it's horrifically sad. I go by that stadium many times, and to see it just be completely empty is terrible. But the worst part about it would be the fact that if they were to become Zvezda's feeder club specifically, and this is not a shot at Zvezda, this is a shot at Zvezda Terzic, because he is the one that ran him into the ground with the way that he did business when he was the president of the FA. And for him to even say anything in the fate of that club and not give complete financial support to them and basically take them under his own, it shows the lack of complete respect. And it's a complete disgrace, the fact that they've gone to that point. And I hope that some angel comes in and saves them, because they are the one big club in Belgrade and in general in Serbia that has the history that can match the other big teams, that doesn't have any of the messy, not say messy, but the problematic ideologies that I've just mentioned. So I really hope somebody comes in and saves them, because that would be a death blow, and especially considering who's offering to quote unquote save them, really makes me angry. So it's just terribly sad.
Yeah, man, and they are a romantic club. The nickname is correct. I think everybody has a soft spot for them, and it would be horrible if they were to go away. Luka, what are your thoughts on this OFK Belgrade situation?
Yeah, I mean, you both of you guys just took the words right out of my mouth. I know they've always been, when they were in the Superliga, they've always been my second favorite team to watch, and of course a lot of talent, as you guys said, has come out of that club, and for them to disappear like this, yeah, man, it's just not a good sign of where things stand in Serbian football in general. So I really hope it doesn't happen, and there's a savior in the midst coming up. So fingers crossed, and best wishes to OFK Belgrade.
Valley?
Yeah, absolutely. I won't harbour, because I'm agreeing with all of you. It'd be an absolute tragedy. I watched OFK Belgrade once, and I watched another game. I actually watched when Serbia beat Hungary 7-0, and Gojko Kačar scored about 40 goals in a European youth qualifier. You sit on top of the stand, and Alexa, correct me, is that the Dunav on the other side of the pitch?
I believe so. It's a very Very big stand, and it just kind of goes downhill. You know, you have the big road that's just above the stadium, and then you have a great view. It just comes down. It's clear. It's not like the Partizan Stadium, which you have the big fences, and I guess you have some other things. It's not like Zvezda where you have you're 500 yards away from the pitch. It's clean. It's visible. It's old-time football at its best. It's a beautiful stadium. Just from an architectural perspective, it's a great stadium. And I would hate to see it get dismantled if nothing else. So.
Absolutely. It's absolutely beautiful, you know, Nakara Burmatamo, and I just adore it. Not only, players like Bana Ivanovic came from OFK Belgrade, but even back, Slobodan Santrac, Ilija Petkovic, that we all know really well, Bog da mu dušu prosti, but it would be an absolute tragedy. So I think we're all in agreement here. Let's not labour the point because it's horrible.
For sure, and save OFK. That's all I got to say about that. Another question we have here from Futbalski Hram. Actually, they have a French language Serbian football Twitter. They also have a new website, which is pretty cool. I think it's futbalstihram.com, where they discuss the news of Serbian football in French. So definitely give them a follow, and I appreciate your question. They're asking about what we think about Dejan Jovic's half season in Wolfsburger. I believe he has 8 goals this season. He scored, I think, 5 in his last 6. Finally developing. I should say finally developing. I mean, he's 21 years old. He's just like many of our players. They leave too young. They're not ready. Even, when you watched him 2 or 3 years ago, you can tell he was just a skinny little kid. He wasn't really ready for a tougher competition or a tougher league. But the money was there, and of course he was sold to Eintracht. Didn't work out there. Went out on loan. Didn't work out in Belgium. But now he's found his footing in Austria with Wolfsburger, and things are starting to look up for him. And I think we're going to be saying his name for many years to come because he has the goal-scoring instinct. He is always there to be found. He's like, it reminds me of I don't want to say a Kejman, but kind of like Kejman. He's a poacher. Mm-hmm. He always finds the ball. And someone like that is very useful, especially in today's game. A mobile striker that's always in the box, that's always going to find those balls. I think he's going to be a key part of our national team for many years to come, and I expect him to make his debut in the next 2 years. That's what I think. I don't think there's going to be any stopping him, and I'm great. It's great to see that he's found a place where he can develop and play more and build his confidence, and also he's looking much more mature body-wise as well. He's got some muscle on him now, so he's definitely been putting in the work, and it's paying off, which is amazing to see.
Hey, Milos, what's interesting is I think Jovic is the only person who can make those Wolfsburger jerseys look good with all those sponsors on there, man.
Oh, man, those are hideous.
I know, dude.
And the color palette, which is like green, black,
right.
And red. They must have been smoking something.
Hey, the color palette is all the colors because of the sponsors.
Yeah, but I appreciate it. They're trying to make that money now, COVID. Get all that money you can. Why not?
They usually have heaps of sponsors on their shorts too, and they're usually wrapped around their ass and all that. It's quite funny.
Yeah, exactly. And then we do have another question here from Call Real. I believe they are a Real Madrid fan. They want to know if we think Luka Jovic should be loaned out. The answer is, of course, yes. And also they want to know about building the team around SMS, building the national team around SMS, which I also agree with. But yeah, I think Jovic not even playing yesterday on his birthday, not playing the week before. Real Madrid has not been playing that well. They haven't been scoring that many goals. I don't know why he hasn't gotten at least bench minutes. Very disappointing, but it seems like Zidane has, made his mind up about Jovic, and he's not going to give him any minutes. So definitely, in my opinion, it's time to go on loan, find a new club. He can't waste his talent. He's way too good to be sitting on anybody's bench, and hopefully he's out of there soon.
Dude, yeah.
You look at the goals he's scoring in training, it's not like he's probably not working hard. I mean, he does have an attitude that can annoy me, but he also has talent that it's worth putting out with that attitude, and it's just a bad mix. Zidane was not the manager that took him in, at least I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, he wasn't. No.
So, I mean, it's a problem, and I think that they desperately I think Julian Lopetegui that took him. So, it's very frustrating. I think there's a plethora of teams that could really use him. I think there's a plethora of teams that could use his movement. I think that he, in a weird way, kind of needs this, so he can kind of realize he made a mistake jumping, I think, one step. I think if he would have just gone to, just a little smaller club, he doesn't have to go to, Crystal Palace or anything like that. But if he would have just gone to a touch smaller club, I think it would have worked well. Arsenal can't seem to get past the halfway line. Maybe they use him, or maybe we'll ruin him more. Who knows? But yeah, and as far as the SMS thing is concerned, it depends. I would personally. I think that the thing that some of the other people that know more than I do have said that he's probably the best bench option in world football, and he would be amazing in that sense. But if you were to build around him, it would be great. The only issue is that you have another guy who, whilst he's out of form, also has 36 goals for the national team and gives everything he has every single game and is a model player and a model leader. And you can't, and picking between SMS and Mitrovic, you're putting Mitro on the bench. I know that not undroppable. I've talked about how we have a lot of different options in terms of ways we can play because we have fast guys, we have tall guys. We actually have a lot of variety in our team in terms of our ability, even if they can't play many different positions. But there's different ways we can attack teams. And coming back to the basketball thing, if we were to use that where we kind of, start with our best players, but we know who our best players are, I think that they would kind of be understood because there's times in the basketball where our best players start on the bench and then, but crunch time, who's going to ball. It's the same thing here. And if we can kind of figure out a way to psychologically get them to understand their roles and be ready to play, I think it could work both ways. But if you were to ask me for the future, of course, or SMS or college, just because of age.
I think, boys, one thing that we need to really get straight is that the Serbian national football team needs to be built around the interests of the Serbian national football team rather than one individual. If I like SMS, good player. The other thing that comes to mind is if he was that good, would he be at Lazio? I don't know. There was a lot of talk previously that he's a disruptive influence in the change room. But is he a needed player for the Serbian national team? Absolutely. So, but I still maintain that the national team needs to be built around the interests of the national team rather than anything else, because the last thing you need is one player, when that all gets into his head, that, they're building the team around him. Our mentality is the worst for that. You know what I mean? Like their head now expands, it swells, it becomes big. We don't need that. At this point in time, when we're not that good, we didn't qualify for the Euros. We've got to get over ourselves. The team needs to be built around the best interests of the team.
I couldn't agree more, Belly. But just to give SMS some praise, and for anybody who's listening to this and hasn't seen the highlight yet, but that assist that SMS just had to Ciro Immobile, I believe it was against AC Milan, where they lost 3-2. That was a beauty, man. One touch over the top of the defense, wrong-footed the defender, and Ciro was the end of it. The dude definitely has talent. I definitely agree with you, though, Veli. Build around the shirt, not one person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That assist yesterday was disgusting. His assist to Mobile last week was also pretty disgusting. And free kick goal earlier. I think he's had 2 free kick goals this season. SMS is a filthy player. And
how many 6'4" guys that can do that?
Yeah,
6'4"
exactly.
There is no questioning his talent. But we just got to make it complement the team rather than make sacrifices for an individual.
For sure, but I believe he's generational, and we got to make it work. And
absolutely. I agree with you. We've got to make it work, but we've got to make it work in the interest of the shirt.
That's right. And let's see, next question we have regarding Zvezda's, this is from Sasha as well, regarding Zvezda signings. Seems like they're signing attacking players. Bakayoko is a winger. They're looking at a striker. I think the striker from Norway that scored like 30 goals in the league or something. He's just wondering why they keep signing attacking players and not defenders. I don't know. Clearly, they need to look back.
If we sign Alf-Inge Haaland from Norway, I'd be happy to take him. Trust me.
I love it. But how many strikers does Zvezda need, man? I was like, it's just too much. But maybe they're just trying to score goals. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
20 years of chanting and they kind of just said, all right, sure, why not?
Hasn't helped us at all.
Yeah, exactly. Slavic Savic coming back as well, which is something that I actually like. So I would mention that too.
No, I'm a bit on we've got to scout. You know, we talked about this a little bit earlier in today's podcast. We just got to scout the country. Zvezda, Partizan, whatever, Vojvodina, Trukarički, whatever it is. We just got to scout the country. Look under stones. Look in villages. Look on streets. Look on pitches, and we got to find them there first because we're good at finding talent. It's what happens when that talent gets in the hands of the wrong individuals.
And also, it's unbelievable for a country that's fantastic at producing defensive midfielders and fullbacks that they can't seem to find one to save their life. It's like,
absolutely, yeah.
If there's one place you don't have to look,
right point.
It's like that's the one. Like I understand you have to find a creative player, you have to find a striker, you have to find like a goalkeeper that's flexible. Okay, fine, that's a bit difficult, but like. Wait, there are like 70,000 defensive midfielders that can just beat the piss out of you, and there's like fullbacks that are going to run all day. Like, that's our entire brand for the last 20 years, and you can't find them. I find that unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it seems like fullback might be going out of might be a position of the past as well. Everybody seems to be a wingback these days. Even our players you've seen converted to wingbacks like Lazovic and Ristic and Kostic as well. So, I mean, I don't even know if we're going to need to produce any fullbacks because it seems like there's fullbacks are less and less of a thing. Obviously,
which is why I think they bought Sinic. They bought Sinic, I think, because they want to use a three at the back with him and a wingback, which would actually work. So, it's kind of wingers are either you're a great winger or you're a wingback or you're just like a center back playing in a three at the back. You're not a classic right back where you're stuck by your own corner flag. I think that position is kind of dying out in post-insane situations.
Yeah, exactly. I think in football, trends change, positions change. Things are popular, 10, 15 years ago, everybody was playing 4-4-2. And then that formation's kind of died out. And maybe one day this wingback thing will be less and less used as well. But right now it seems like we don't really need to have, old-fashioned classic right backs and left backs. But even the wingbacks we have, we'll see how they can do. But yeah, Zvezda definitely, I think Milinkovic has done well. Defense has looked okay, but I do think they need some reinforcements, especially at left back, right back. Gaich has been all right, but can't hurt to get some more depth there as well.
Defensive midfield, because they only have Sonogo. None of the other guys they have are DMs. They're attacking players, and if he's out, that's a big loss for them. They got to find somebody just to fill the spots up. They don't need to find someone great. They got to find someone who can come and actually play the position, and they're just not finding them. And like I said, it's incredible in a country that in a league that has so many tough guys that can just beat people up, if nothing else, that they can find one. And I'm not going to hear the excuse that they don't have money. If you can get a former Inter player, you can get one of those guys in. You can get somebody from Vojvodina or somebody from Vozdova, Trukarički, Nikola Rišić, for example, or someone else. It's because it's incredible that they can't find
homegrown talent. Homegrown talent. It absolutely killed me last year looking at this Žander and Van Lapata and Pičke Mater. I couldn't stand it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like Zvezda played, we're always with 9 men or 10 men. It killed me because those players are not there for that shirt. They're there for exposure to
different shirt.
Absolutely. So whether that's Zvezda or Partizan, would they get the odd good forwarder? But for God's sake, let's just homegrown talent people, don't leave any stone unturned. Find them, nurture them, blood them, sell them.
100%. All right. I want to thank everyone for the questions today. We'll do one of these soon again. It was a lot of great topics, and
it was great fun.
You all enjoyed. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully you all enjoyed our back and forth and our answers. Thanks so much for listening to the show and for
Miloš, sorry, buddy, can I do one very quick shout out? Oh, exactly right. Sydney is Australia's biggest city. Way too many people live there. It's a pain in the ass. But I know that
come to Belgrade, and then you'll see what way too many people is.
At least the Travape that are over there. So I've got to give a quick shout out to them, to Chicobato, Niego, Zoki, and Dale. A couple of them are actually in isolation, unfortunately, and so I know that they're doing it tough in terms of boredom. So a big shout out to them. Hang in there, guys. Strength to you all. And one more shout out, because we talked about basketball today. It's the 25th of December. Usually here in Australia, a bit of diaspora news for you. It would have been the Dražo Mihailovic Cup, which is the national basketball competition of Serbian clubs here in Australia. Been going on for many, many, many years. guys and girls competition would have got together. You know, the druženje was absolutely unbelievable. People got married, you know, from guys and girls teams because they met at a Draža Mihailovic Cup, and year after year they went back. So unfortunately, due to COVID, it wouldn't have been on this year. I know there's a few listeners that to our pod, so a big shout out to them because we're doing a pod today. And, things are all a little bit different this year. So a big shout out to all you guys.
That's right. Great event, and I'm sure everybody enjoys it always. And I also forgot to get to one question from James in the UK. He wants to know when he can be on the show. James, I know you're, we're happy to have you on. You're our resident half Brit, half Serb. I know you're very passionate, and I'd love to have anybody on, right? If you guys want to be on, let us know. I would love to talk to anybody about Serbian football and share our passion and share our thoughts and our opinions. Just let us know, and we'll make it happen. So
we know we can get annoying and a bit sick for people. It's good to freshen up the lineup. So anyone
let's get some British accents in here.
Good God, yes. Good, because he wants to put up an Australian one. You know what I mean? So absolutely. But right, guys, I'm still into that Making Rakia podcast, so let us all know.
Soon.
The Bitcoin will fund it.
Yeah, there you go. I got you, Ellie.
All right, have a good night, everyone. Talk to you next week.
Take care.
Take care.